As everybody who listens to the podcast knows, one of the biggest delights of the year was discovering the Spencer Sisters. It was so fun, so exciting. And today we have my favorite character from the show, Lindsay, played by Kaitlyn Leeb. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Eric. How are you?
I am completely fantastic. Thanks to you. It's like I say, I could not be more excited to get a couple of minutes with you.
Oh, I'm so happy.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
Though before we were talking, you were saying up there in Toronto, it's a little chilly. So
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm staring at some flurries that are happening here in spring, and we're not too happy about that, I don't think.
I think
But it'll be ended.
you need to talk to your agent and get you some like
I
whatever
know.
Hawaii
I
film or
know.
something
I
like
know.
that. So
Exactly. Let's get on out
come
of here.
on, earn your money. Get me into a tropical destination.
Totally.
Okay. Well, so you have been in some Hallmark, but a lot of Hallmark fans may not really know who you are. So why don't you go ahead and give us the little rundown of, when you're a little child, what your dreams were you wanting to be an actor, and then when you decided to become an actor, just let us get to know you just a little bit there.
A little background. So when I was a little girl, I used to be a competitive figure skater, actually. So that was
Oh,
passion. That's all I wanted to do. My parents put me in acting and modeling when I was young, and really, I wanted to model. I was dying to just get on a runway and strut it. But I'm 5'4", and they were like, "Nope, there's no way that's happening. So why don't you, maybe try acting?" And so I got into acting. I did classes, I did commercials, and then I made my way into TV with like small appearances here and there. And then I went to university and I got a degree in psychology. And I was still acting at the time and auditioning and stuff. But it was really important for me to have, something to possibly fall back on. And my education was important, and my parents pushed it as well. So I kind of debated between, going into the field of mental health. And just as I was graduating, I booked my first big lead in a movie, and I was able to, do exactly what I wanted. And I realized that acting was something that I really wanted to pursue. And my career kind of just went from there. And I've been really lucky and grateful to have had the career that I've had. And I have a family now. And yeah, so that's kind of the little backstory of me.
well, I have to say, I find that absolutely hilarious because you were thinking about maybe going into mental health, which I assume would be helping people with mental health issues, and you chose the career that probably is the most stressful, strainful, give you mental health
Oh,
issues.
problems, absolutely. And like, it's funny, as an actor, you deal with rejection like 90, what, 8, 9% of the time. And, it's really hard, I think, on your mental health. I think any actor across the board. So it is funny that I was trying to help people, and, maybe I should have, I probably need help myself, but, it can be a very tough industry, but I love what I do and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, as we said, you're up in Toronto, and now maybe our world's a little bit distorted, but all we ever hear is how Vancouver is essentially Hollywood North, and all production is, Vancouver, 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 and yet you're in Toronto. Is that now, first of all, I guess, is our perception wrong, and maybe Toronto is more hustle and
No,
bustle, or why did you
raising
decide to stay over in that part of the country?
I'm from Toronto, born and raised. And to be honest, I mean, back in the day when I was growing up, Toronto was Hollywood North. I don't know if that became a new thing with Vancouver, and their film industry definitely took off and became a huge hub, especially because they're right on the coast, and it's much easier for LA people to go down there, or sorry, head up there to Vancouver. But Toronto was Hollywood North, I will have to say. I mean, I guess I can get into a debate about it, but that's how when growing up, that Toronto was, and still is Hollywood North. They shoot a lot of things in Toronto. They do shoot a lot in Vancouver as well. But both cities are amazing for the industry for Canada, because Toronto is a big city, and there's a lot of hustle and bustle, and you can fake the New Yorks or the Chicagos or the Boston. You can fake those big cities and stuff. You get the beautiful landscape of Vancouver. Of course, we can't compete, but we they shoot a lot in Toronto. It's maybe you're on the West Coast, maybe you don't hear about it.
Well, like I say, I know Toronto a lot. I will admit, though, I am not the hugest fan of Toronto, only because I'm from Detroit and I have my Red Wings.
Uh,
And are you a Maple Leaf fan?
well, I grew up in a Maple Leaf fan household. My husband is an ex-hockey player. He's a huge, huge fan. My dad is like the biggest Maple Leaf fan of all time. So I get the rivalry.
Yeah.
I totally do. It's
Other than that, I love the city. It is an absolutely, if people get a chance, they should go. It is an amazing city. Like you said, it's, well, you could say you can simulate New York, Boston, but it has literally everything that that cosmopolitan city has. It's an amazing city.
yeah. Thank you.
So did you ever though, when you were first saying, okay, I'm going to get into acting and say, forget the Hollywood North, did you ever contemplate going actually to LA to kickstart the career?
I did. I did a lot. I looked into getting my visa and heading down there, and going for pilot season or doing this and that, or even just maybe relocating. But I was in a relationship with my husband now at the time, and um, he's in finance, and so he works on Bay Street, which would be like equivalent to Wall Street in New York. So he's in our Toronto Canadian financial district in the industry here, and so it would have been really difficult for him to relocate. And then, I found myself like, I guess, time just it happens. And then here we were like, okay, we're going to buy our first house together. We got married and we are going to buy our house, and we bought a house in Toronto. And then it kind of just, my decision was made. I had my first baby, and it was like, well, I wish maybe I had gone down for a little bit, and it's definitely something that I had always wanted to do. But yay, I guess, things happen for a reason, and it didn't work out that way. But I absolutely wanted to, and like looked into it and the process of it.
We'll get into it later, but I hope your husband is a treats you much better than Lucas does. But we'll get into that later when we
For
talk
sure.
about our mental health, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I say, you kind of were wanting to do the acting, which, by the way, it's funny that you said you're 5'4", because I was watching before we were talking Romance in the Wilds, Into the Wilds, whatever, right? And your lead, the guy, there's a scene where you're walking through, well, there's 7,000 scenes where you're walking through the woods, but you're next to him, and I'm like, is she short or is he tall? Because
Oh,
you
he's
literally were coming up
I think
nowhere on him.
Vic is like 6'3". I think he's extremely tall, but I am, yeah, I'm 5'4".
Okay.
I'm definitely
Because
shorter. I'm still on the
like,
smaller side, but Vic is tall. I have to say, even if I was like really tall, he'd still be a tall man. He's a tall guy.
because most of the scenes, the way that they, I guess, framed it, you didn't look that different in height, right?
Yeah,
Now, of
yeah.
course, there, but there's the one where they're just showing from behind, and I'm not kidding. You're coming up to like mid chest on him, and it was like, wow, you.
That's,
So
yeah, that's totally accurate. Yeah, he's a tall guy.
okay, so what you said you wanted to be the model, little short for becoming the model kind of thing, but you decided to become the actor. What is the best part about being an actor for you?
Um, I think just the playing aspect of it and becoming a different character, and maybe my psychology background really does come through with that, because you can take a character and create a whole backstory with that character, and a whole, you just a make believe person that you bring to life. And I absolutely love that aspect of it. And, you do that with every one of your characters. But, um, even auditioning, I love auditioning because it gives me a chance to act. It gives me a chance to do something that I love doing and play. And I feel invigorated after I do even an audition I didn't even get that part, but it's just like, I was able to do something that I love doing, and it gives me so much joy, and it fills my like soul and heart. So, despite it being a tough industry, and you deal with a lot of rejection, I feel fulfilled with my life because I get to do something that I truly love doing.
It's
And I
amazing.
also get to travel, right? Like I've been so lucky because I've shot in almost every province here in Canada, across the country, on different shows, which I don't think I necessarily would have done if I wasn't an actor. There's places that Canadians have never been to in our country that I've had the opportunity to go to and film multiple times and meet those people and see the beautiful like things that our country has to offer, and in other parts of the world as well. So I think that's also another aspect of it too that I love.
It's funny you mentioned the auditioning, and as you said, it typically just the odds doesn't work out in your favor. And we've talked to several actors, and they all say that they actually enjoy the auditioning because like you said, it's a chance to act. Because I would think that it would be which I'm about to ask, like the flip side, like the worst, because of, once again, you do all this work for, odds are, not getting a particular role. But everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, many actors are like you who really do enjoy that whole process.
Yeah, I think it's because if you're not on a show or a movie at the time, you don't get to, flex those muscles or do what you love to do. So even an audition comes in and you're like, great, I get to do something I love. And hey, yeah, there's a shot. Does it happen? Probably you do with no a lot of times, but it could work out, and that's the only way is to try. But yeah, you get to do something you love to do, even if it's for a half an hour or an hour or whatever it takes.
Well, speaking of auditioning, it has changed dramatically since COVID, right? You used to be, you'd go into the audition room and have that little group of whoever that you audition in front of, and now you do most of them, I'm assuming, from home. Well, I don't know if you have a nice little back screen all set up in your little
Yeah.
shot. So tell me a little bit about, like, did you like doing it the old way better? Do you like the new way better?
So
How do you approach auditioning?
I've always loved auditioning, going in person, like just my whole life. I've loved it. And then COVID happened, and self tapes self tapes had always been around, but this was like, oh wow, we're doing constant self tapes. And there's an aspect of it that you can do on your own time, especially as a mom. I found my life got a lot harder when I became a mom and that we were going in person to audition, because it was like, okay, who's gonna look after the baby? I got to get downtown for 10 o'clock to do, like, yeah, I'm down there for what, half an hour, and then I gotta get back. Now my kids are in school. I mean, I guess it would be a little easier, but it was hard. There were days where you're just like, thank God my mom was there to help me, and my mother-in-law, and you kind of rely on a village. It's true, but the ease of like, oh, I can do it today or tomorrow, or I have more time to memorize my lines or read the script, or I think the like nerves get taken away, because even though I loved auditioning in person, you still had a little bit of nerves, right? Because you're like, what if I blank out and like completely forget my lines? Where if I do that here, no one's going to know that except for me and my reader. And everyone has off days where you're just not feeling as, I don't know, you're tired or whatever. So I like that aspect of it. But to be honest with you, it's been many years. I would love to go back in person. I think there's something about like the connection and getting directions from the casting director and working with a reader, like another actor. Because a lot of times, I'll do it with my husband or we do it on Zoom with another actor, which is great, but it's not the same as in person, having like that chemistry with your reader and making that connection with them. So I do miss it. I would love to go back. Especially my opinion is self tapes, but if you make it to like a callback, I think that those should go back into in person, because it's just like I said, it would be so great to just have that connection, human connection with a person face to face.
Ironically, I just saw a post on Instagram this morning. I forget who it was, but they said they just did their first in person since COVID, and they were like, "Oh my God, it was so great! Thank you,"
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
So, as you said, you could go and I'm guessing the horror story probably would be more the in person. But do you have any of the, like, those audition stories of maybe that was just like, oh my God, that you tell at the cocktail party?
I I don't I can't I God, I can't even think. I mean, I feel like I've done it for so many years. I know for a fact I've gone in, you're just like, you totally blank, and you're like, I'm sorry. And I think when I was younger, I would get more paranoid about it and like really feel awful about it. And as I got older and matured, and I think matured as an actor, and realized you're in the room for a reason. The casting director wants to see you for a reason. They're rooting for you, not against you. It kind of changed my mindset. So anytime I did have kind of like moment, I didn't feel as bad. I would just say, I'm so sorry. Can we take it back? And, everyone is understanding. We're human. It happens. I just worked really hard at trying not to let that happen. I would prepare. I had an acting coach that said, like, you should be the most prepared person in that room. And that was something I just did. And I think it was because I was so afraid to screw up my lines or whatever. But I've done it. We all have done it. And I just think as I've gotten older, I've realized, hey, it's okay. I'm so sorry. Can we just start over? Sure, no problem. And, I don't think I've ever been like yelled at or anything. Like I said, for the most part, the casting directors they brought you in for a reason. They want you to succeed as well, right? It's a mindset, I think, that you have to change.
Did you ever do the one when you went in and in the waiting room there were 20 other people who looked exactly like you waiting to go on in?
Yeah, of course. You walk in and you're like, oh, we're all like the same. We have the same type of look. Or the best one is I was up for this show, um, and the casting director was like, this is her role. Like, this is 100%. She's going to get it. And it was down to me and two other ladies. And I was feeling really confident, and it was kind of a comedic role, and I loved doing those. And I went in, and I had an amazing. It was like a chemistry read, and there was all the producers were there, the writers, the stars were there. We did a chemistry read, and I walked out, and I was the middle. I was the second one to go in, so there was one girl waiting, and I walked out of the room, and I looked at her, and I thought, even though I had like the greatest I felt audition, I looked at her, and I was like, if I was a producer, I would have hired her for the role. She just looked like the role more than I did, like just based on looks. I just looked at her. I'm like, I would hire you, like. And she got it actually. So I was right on my intuition. But yeah, I mean, it's part of the game that just happened. You understand why they're going after a certain look or whatever like that. Yeah.
That's what I think us who are not in the industry kind of maybe a little more thin-skinned about it, but as we have talked to, actors that you guys do, I guess understand more that it could be literally nothing to do with you. They just wanted like, oh, your hair is 2 inches longer than we envisioned the character, so that's why you didn't get. And so for us, I would be like curled in a ball for a couple weeks if, I could not handle the rejection, but
Yeah.
we need that. So that's why let's just go back now to I asked you what was the best part about being an actor, but what's the worst or like this the toughest part, would you say?
The toughest part is probably on my mental health, because I do think that actors have a thick skin. And I think I developed it. You develop it as you go on in life and grow up. And, I think for the most part, I can handle the rejection, but I do feel that there's only so much rejection a human being can handle before they start to internalize it and start looking at themselves. Like, is it me? Is it my face? Is it my hair? Is it my body? And I do. And then you start getting insecure about yourself. Like, what is it? Why isn't it going my way? And it's hard. You have to kind of, even though I know, hey, it could be my hair, it could be as simple as exactly what you just said. Your hair was just 2 inches too long, or you were too tall for the role, or it's out of your control. And because we don't have answers to those questions, your mind does a lot, right? And there's nothing you can really do about it. But I would say the worst part is just the toll it takes on, I think, someone's mental health and their self-esteem at times. Yeah, that would be it. I have crawled in a ball in my bed and like cried over the loss of a role. And it wasn't, those usually happen when it's gone down to like your third or fourth audition, and it's, it's between you and one other girl, or you've gotten such great feedback from a producer, like, yes, we love her. We're looking at one or two other girls, and it doesn't go your way. And you're like, but why? And I have been in my bed in a ball crying. It happens. I don't know how you can avoid it, really. I mean, unless you're really strong, but I guess, I have weak moments just like everyone else.
Right.
So yeah.
I imagine though having a couple kids though kind of helps ease that too, right? Because you can sit there and feel bad, then all of a sudden you have your kid and they come give you a hug and the world gets all better, right?
100%. Honestly, they saved me so many times because like the best role is being a mom, and I get to be with them. And then I can also, again, shift your mindset where it's like, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. I get to be with them because I've also worked years where I've missed first days of school and Christmas concerts and recitals and being with them all the time because I'm shooting in another place. Like I've moved out of the house for however long to shoot. And so when I'm home and if I didn't get that job, it's like, well, it wasn't meant to be, and I get to be with them because they're little and they're only little for so long and like they're already growing up so fast. So I have to look at it like that and, you know,
All right.
appreciate the days. Doesn't matter.
We're going to do a quiz to see how well you know Kaitlyn Leeb's acting career.
Oh my God. Okay.
And this is going off IMDb, and we've been told many a times, don't ever trust IMDb, but that is going to be our resource, right?
Okay.
Your first role was in Beautiful People. What was your character?
I don't think she had a name. I think she was like girl one.
Ding, ding, ding. Perfect. Yep. Girl one is exactly right. All right, we're gonna skip Total Recall for good reasons there. Let's go on to Christmas with a Prince.
Mhm.
Who was your role there?
Tasha, Dr. Tasha.
Yes, Doctor No, because we're our Hallmark.
Yep.
Crossword Mysteries.
Yep.
Abracadabra.
Abracadabra. Bianca.
Yes. By the way, my favorite of the Crossword Mysteries,
Oh,
Spencer Sisters. You see if you can remember that one.
Lindsay, of course.
Of course. Okay, 100%. Good going.
Amazing.
All right. Well, we are going to talk about crossword for a minute.
Mhm.
As I said, you were in that one. That was my favorite one. And it was funny. It wasn't until, I don't know, a third of the way through the Spencer Sisters of watching it when it's like, where do I know you from? Where do I know you from? And because
Oh,
you looked very different, I think.
yeah. Yeah.
And then went back to, I was like, oh, Bianca, fantastic. But Bianca was the magician's assistant who really was very qualified to be the magician. So, do you have any magic skills yourself?
No, and they brought a magician on set to like teach us how to do like little things. And he was so nice and he sat with us and he taught us like a coin trick which I obviously can't remember now. I was also, but I will say because I do have a really good memory, but I was pregnant. No one knows that obviously, but I was pregnant.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Because
with
you
my
were
second.
not in very concealing outfits to be pregnant.
Yeah, I was pregnant, like definitely second trimester pregnant with my second child and I only told, and I knew the director because I'd worked with him before, and I told him after. And I said, "Could you tell?" And he said, "That's so funny because there was only one scene where I was in editing that I looked and I thought, is she?" And then I didn't think anything of it, but I told my wardrobe lady, her name is Bonnie, and she was the sweetest woman. And I think about her all the time, actually, because I told her, and I was so scared. I'm like, "Don't tell anyone, please." Like, I had to tell her because as the weeks went on, my belly got bigger, right? It was like, and I had to fit into the same clothes. And, could we just go with this like looser dress instead of the really super tight one that they originally had me in? And like, yeah, sure, no problem. And she was so kind and lovely that I was pregnant on that set, quite pregnant on
I am going
that.
to have to watch again and see if I
Yeah, I
can
don't know if you
clue
can
in
see. I
because
like, yeah, but he did. Back to your original question, because I do have a good memory. I can't remember the tricks now, but he taught us like a coin one. I don't know how to, I can't juggle. Not that that's like a magician thing. I know one card trick and that's it. But I learned that when I was a kid and it's like my go-to. But unfortunately, that's it.
well, you worked with Lacey Chabert and Brennan Elliott, who are two of the biggest Hallmark stars ever. So,
Yes.
what do you remember about working with those two?
So I was a huge, obviously, Mean Girls fan, and she was like one of my favorite characters. Growing up,
Wait, she also probably makes you look tall, right?
she does. She's even shorter than me. But she is also, I just thought she was just so beautiful and I couldn't wait to meet her. And she was the kindest, most welcoming. They both were people on a set. I think I even told them, like, I've never been welcomed like this before. Um, it was so great to meet both of them. And we had lots of chats. And, yeah, I honestly really loved my time working with both of them. And especially meeting Lacey, like I was a Mean Girls, and she was like the most beautiful girl in my eyes. And I met her, I'm like, oh God, it's just so nice to meet you, and it was fun.
Was it ever hard then to to shut the switch off when not look at her and be like, yeah, oh my God, fetch?
No, no, I don't think so. I mean, just her personality is just so kind and warm. She's definitely not her character on Mean Girls at all,
Right.
obviously. But no, it was just nice to meet her and get to know her and work with both of them actually.
Okay, well, moving on, you were also in 26 episodes of Heartland, and a lot of people out there think Heartland's the best series Hallmark has ever done.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about being on that, being once again part of that huge series as Cassandra Lee.
Yeah, I was on that show for I think 8 seasons, and I feel like I kind of grew up. I got engaged on that show, married on that show, pregnant in real life, had my both children, me being on that show, I developed such great friendships with the cast, and Calgary kind of became like a second home. I was in Calgary sometimes like every week or every other week or every few days. I flew a lot back and forth, but it was an amazing, amazing time on that show. I have just the best memories. And every time I meet a fan of Heartland, they're always the kindest, most gracious people of all time. And so um, I truly have just nothing but amazing things to say about Heartland. It was like a turning point in my career, really, I think, as well. And I was able to learn a lot because I was a recurring character. So I was on there for so many years that, it was like my first job where I had something that I knew was happening the next year, providing the show got renewed, which it obviously did because it's on its like 100th season. It's been on forever. So yeah, it is. I agree. It is an amazing show. It's an amazing family show. Yeah.
So that has to be, though, from being an actor who does a lot of roles per se, like, here, there, and we're talking about it, the auditioning, to then get that reoccurring, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, that just tell us about like that mindset of just knowing like, hey, I've got this. Because once again, being an actor, the uncertainty is, am I going to ever have another paycheck? You just don't know that, right? But when you have that reoccurring role, it just gives you a little more comfort, right?
It gives you a little security, and you're like, okay, that's great. I mean, I started out with a 4 episode arc, to be honest. It wasn't even really a big recurring. It was a 4 episode arc, and then it ended up being 8 years. So I'm like so grateful that that worked out that way. But yeah, even though, I mean, every season, at the end of the season, you'd be like, well, are we getting renewed? Are
Right.
we? And no one would know until the last minute. And so even when you are recurring and you're on a show that's been on for a long time, you never know when it's going to end. Spencer Sisters is a perfect example. I really truly thought we would get a season two, and we all kind of did. And then when it didn't happen, I mean, I was devastated about it. So even though you have a recurring, and that's an amazing gift, and it does give you a little bit of security, it could be taken away in a second because no one knows, right?
Yeah. So the thing you said before, like when you play and you like to make your backstory, I guess when you have that reoccurring, you really do get to create a character way more than when you do, either in a movie or a single episode type thing where you can do a little bit, but that's mostly probably in your own mind that you're creating this wonderful backstory. But when you get to do, yeah, like 8 years, you really do have a character arc, and like you said, for all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think when you're in a movie or a shorter role, you create those backstories for yourself as an actor to like make the choices that you're going to make in the scenes. And then with Cassandra, I mean, the writers, they create storylines, and you can create a backstory all you want. Or like, oh, what was she doing in the time that you haven't seen her in the last 3 episodes and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun to like, oh, I don't know, she was off doing, well, she was a vet, so she was, vetting. It's just, yeah, it's fun.
Well, you just talked about, you dropped a nice occupation there, but you've been a pediatrician in Christmas with the Prince, a geologist in Romance in the Wild, and a lawyer in the Spencer Sisters. So we talked about, yes, you would have been, you had your psychology degree, but forget all that. Which of those three do you think you actually could have turned out to be in real life?
I think it's between a doctor and a lawyer. I think really a lawyer. Growing up, when you asked what did I want to be, I did actually before that. I always thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I think it's between a doctor and a lawyer. I think the person that I want to help people and comes from, well, I guess you can help people as a lawyer as well, but the doctor side, I also really loved science. I had a degree in psychology at one point. I thought I wanted to be an operational nurse. I really definitely wanted to go into that field. So I think maybe doctor wins. And I
Okay.
think it's cool to be a doctor. I don't know, every time I meet a doctor, I have the utmost respect. So
But we know it's not a geologist then. Sitting out in the middle of the woods looking at rocks by yourself, and Charlie, your dog.
no, you know what? But during COVID, I did get into a really crazy addiction to rock art. So I don't know. I wonder if it was before I filmed that movie or not. But I got it was just so therapeutic, and I would go find rocks, and I would sit at the kitchen table or kitchen counter, and I would paint different things and then put them out. And at one point, some man walked by and was like, "Can I buy these off you?" I was like, "No, take them." He's like, "Oh, these are so nice, and they just make me happy every time I walk by." I said, "Oh, please," and it just made me so happy. But yeah, I don't think I'd be a geologist. But the only thing is, I did get into a real rock art phase at one point.
Yeah, I think that may be an upper level class you take in geology school.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, we talked about Brennan and Lacey being Hallmark royalty, and Lacey, obviously, because of Mean Girls, does go even bigger. But you were with Leah Thompson in Spencer Sisters, and before we recorded, I told you, yeah, she was like my teenage crush. Loved her, and so she's though a global icon because she's got her Back to the Future and everything like that. What was it like when you got the call like, hey, you got this role, and guess who's also in it, and you found out it was her?
It was exciting. It was exciting to actually be with both. Stacey's an icon here in Canada as well. She's had such a career, and then Leah, of course. You're like, what? You're going to meet like Thompson from Back to the Future? It was great. You hope that you hope that they're as nice as you want them to be, and Leah and I had a great relationship. We connected over so many things, so it was great. It was, it's amazing. Anytime people are like, "What was she like?" She's amazing. Like I loved Leah. Everyone loved Leah. To be honest with you, she was such a great person.
Actually, I think she's got two daughters.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
She has two daughters. Yeah.
All right. So tell us about that particular audition when you were doing that. Like, what did they say, Lindsay, the character? Like, how did they describe that? So when you were supposed to be, you know,
Yeah.
portraying her.
From what I remember Lindsay was like a high-powered lawyer. She kind of had, she was successful. Um, she wasn't like a mean person, but there was like a little edge to her, especially obviously with Darcy. But I think that was more written in the audition than it really maybe worked like played out. Um, but yeah, I did the audition. And then I went, it was in the summer, and I went to the cottage and I got a call. And it's always great to get a call when you're on vacation that you booked a job. And I was so thrilled because I really liked the writing. I remember reading it, and my husband taped it with me. And I was like, "I really like this writing." He's like, "Yeah, it's really good. It's like, it's quick. It's nice writing." And so I was really happy to get the job. There was no callback. It was just, I booked it. And that's always also another great feeling that you don't have to go through any more hoops,
Right.
to jump through. But Lindsay was a great character. I love the writing of her.
And so you sort of brought up what I was going to wonder is when you portrayed her off of some notes for the audition, and then you got to actually act her. Did how you interpret her from the audition kind of translate to how you were Lindsay in the show?
Yeah, I
So
think
you
so.
nailed that?
She was written like that. It was like, it was quite, obvious to me, and definitely like the backstory I made of her, for, went followed through with the show. So yeah, I think, I became Lindsay. I am Lindsay.
By the way, we agree with you. Like the writing of it was just so fun. The back and forth, the quips. It was just really well written. So we it came across well from a fan standpoint as well as like you're saying from the actor.
Yeah.
So ironically, we're kind of doing a little full circle here, but Lindsay is pretty much the only main character in that show who should not be in major therapy. Like the rest of them all have major issues, and Lindsay is essentially the sane person of the bunch. So, like, other than being sane, what was it that you really enjoyed about getting to be this character?
I loved her strong personality. I loved portraying a strong female role. And I loved that there was no cattiness between Darcy and Lindsay, right? It was issues that I guess Lucas brought on, and of course with Darcy, but Lindsay wasn't a catty girl. She was an actor. Like there was no like, I don't, it wasn't pitting two females against each other, and that's just such an old school thing that I'm glad we didn't do. But she was a strong, smart, intelligent woman who just knew what she wanted and went after it, and um, she was just a strong woman, independent as well. And I loved portraying that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you because when she, got Darby and was like, "Hey, I want to talk to you," and then was just sort of matter of fact, like, "Hey, this is what it is," and like you said, it wasn't catty, it wasn't melodrama kind of thing. It was, I think, actually quite realistic and quite,
For sure.
uh, like you said, just matter of fact, like, "Hey, this is how it is. You got your history, but he's mine now, right? And
Yeah, and I think
you need to respect boundaries."
yeah, and I think that they developed a relationship, the two women, and there was so many ways we could have explored that more. And I heard for season two they had all these great ideas of the two women actually becoming friends and having a real relationship, which I think would have been so nice to see. Right? It's like I think when Darby first meets Lindsay, she has this whole vision of who she is, and I think as the season progresses, she realizes that no, like she has insecurities just like I do, and weaknesses just like I do, and we're all human. It's like looking at people on Instagram and thinking they have the greatest life of all time when you don't see it's just a highlight reel. You don't see the back, you don't see the everyday, you don't see the struggles. And so I think the realization of the two women, it could have blossomed into an amazing friendship, which I think that's where they were going, and it ended up like that in the end, especially with that big episode in episode 7, I believe. Lindsay's like big episode.
The the one where she's the getting the
Yeah,
victim or whatever.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
great. There's a great ending of that one too. When you're talking about strong woman, when Lindsay just comes in and is like, "All right, I'm badass. I'm coming in and
totally.
saving the day." But
Yeah,
the season did end on a little different note where Lindsay was quite vulnerable because she obviously was hurt by Lucas and Lucas's reaction. So, which brings me up to the thing is, I personally think Lindsay should just dump Lucas and go for Dez because Lindsay and Dez together when they're sharing the wine, like, "Oh, let's do all that." Both, once again, Dez is a great character too. He doesn't have any of his emotional baggage. So I think Lindsay would be much better off dumping
with,
Lucas and getting with
oh,
Dez.
yeah,
And,
and I
and
mean,
then you can drink wine.
yeah, and they can drink wine. Yeah, they actually the two characters had great chemistry there as well because it was so awkward at that dinner table, thanks to Lucas, of course. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Can you share any fun behind the scenes stories from, shooting all 10 episodes there? I guess you were in six, I think. But
Yeah, I was 6 or 7, I can't remember, but it no, not really.
nothing fun happened. Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, we had fun like all the time. It was we constantly were laughing and talking and you know chatting. I there wasn't anything. I'm trying to think of like the one memory that's sticking out, but it's not even a fun memory. Of course, it was like when Leah and I really bonded because I was on set and my husband called and my daughter was really sick and she like had a really bad fever and she developed a rash and I was feeling such mom guilt and like was on the verge of tears and Leah, I think her dog was not doing well, and we just totally like bonded over being at work and being moms and wishing we were home for our family at that point. And that's like a memory that really sticks out that just, but it's not a fun memory. But I guess it is a fun memory because Leah and I really kind of bonded and became friends at that point. But um, I try to think of like a funny story. I don't know. I gotta think of that.
No,
Caught me off guard.
that's a good one. I mean, that's quite sweet. So,
It was a
and like
sweet
you
story.
say, it's awesome when you hear that, because like I say, she's global, right? And just to know that she can just be that person with you too.
We were shooting in this house once. I can't remember if it was her house or not, like her main house. And we were in the basement, and it was so random because this person who owned the house, like they kind of like they get paid and they leave it, and we were sitting in the basement as our green room, and it was so random. But this guy had Back to the Future posters. He was obviously like a movie buff. I don't know if he was in the industry or not. But it wasn't just Back to the Future. He had like Jaws and like all these like big major
Hey,
films.
she was in Jaws 3 too.
Oh, there you go. I might have made the Jaws one up, but I was just trying to say like
Right,
he wasn't just Back to the Future. He was obviously like a movie
right.
buff. It's so random because there was like a Back to the Future poster. Like Leah, that's so crazy. Anyway, nothing like yeah, it wasn't that funny, but I thought it was kind of ironic.
Well, speaking of funny, there's the character Rory, played by Sean Cullen.
Yeah.
What is like he would just have to get on screen and I would start laughing. What is he actually like in person? Is he like
Hilarious.
super serious or something like that? So it's like totally not him.
He's he's he can be serious, but then he comes out with like a joke like that. He just delivers super dry, and you're like, oh my god. He had everyone laughing. He also was so good at like improv and just ad libbing, and it was dangerous because people would legitimately start laughing, or you couldn't get through a scene without people laughing. He's hilarious. He played that character so well. I'm so glad that they carried him through the whole season. He was hilarious. Honestly, he was hilarious. But yeah, he doesn't come out with like jokes all the time. It was just you'd be having a serious conversation with him, and then he just throws in. It's like those really classic funny people that you're like, you're really talented.
Well, we are on a crusade to get that season 2 still there, and we're doing everything we can to keep momentum going. Pretty much everyone who's watched it has loved it. It's just not it's just great. And one of the things we keep saying is Hallmark needs more procedural. It's great because it's 44 minutes. You can watch it, pop in, pop out kind of
And you
thing.
can watch it with your family. Like
Right.
my daughter was well, yeah, she watched it. She loved it. I mean, I let her watch it, but I also,
you do have Victoria getting a little racy sometimes.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But it's not nothing. It's not anything that you're like,
right. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Oh, thank you for saying that. I mean, I know we would all love it. We became like a little family on that set. And like I said, I was devastated that, we didn't get another season.
Well, you kind of hinted a little bit at saying there are some thoughts for season 2, but what would you tell us to help arm us to keep that pressure on Hallmark to pick it up?
I know for a fact that they had the season 2 ready to go, and I know the creators of the show. I know the creator of the show very well, Alan, and he had season 2 ready to go, and he had great storylines of especially with Lindsay and Darby developing a friendship and creating that new little world, which I think would have been really fun to see because she needs a girlfriend. I mean, we all need friends. So they had great ideas and they had it ready to go, and I know they were really hoping, and I think at one point we were under the impression that we were going to go. And when it didn't happen, I know we're upset as well. But it's ready. We've got the characters, we've got the storylines, we've got the cast. We all got along really well, which is, sometimes rare on sets. But yeah, it was, like I said, I mean, like, let's keep trying because I know we would all love to do it.
You shot it in Winnipeg, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, and it was 10 episodes. How long was it continuous, or did you come in and do some and then leave?
So I would be in maybe like every other week. I flew back and forth from, I think, August till December.
Okay. So good 4 months to do the whole thing.
Leah and Stacey were there the entire time. They were exhausted. I mean, they were in like every single scene, of course. They're the leads and they did such an incredible job. But they were there. They physically moved there for the entire time, obviously, because they were working every day. And then the recurring cast just came in and out, and we just flew. It's not a bad flight. It was actually quite nice. It was, I think, 2 hours or something. And Winnipeg are the nicest Canadians I've ever met personally, but it was, it became a second home as well. And so, yeah, I think I was in there maybe every week or every other week, or sometimes twice in 1 week. It just depended on how much what we were shooting or what the schedule was.
Okay. Well, do you have anything coming up that you can share that we should be looking for you in?
No, nothing that I'm on screen for. Maybe some behind the scenes stuff that we're really pushing to, hopefully that happens. And if it does, I will reach out to you and let you know. You'll be one of the first to know, I promise. But no, nothing that it's been a slow couple of years, I have to say.
Okay. Well, like I say, we are going to do everything we can in our little bit of influence to get it going because it is such a good series. But we wish you all the luck. Thank you very much for spending some time with us. And we will hopefully see you on screen soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
All right. Bye, Lindsay. Or Lindsay, bye. Kaitlyn. See, I'm already gone into character. You've done such a good job.
Thanks.
See you, Kaitlyn.
Okay, see ya.